Okay, Sam, we're ready.
Okay, we're all set.
We're live now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a call to order of the Contracts Committee of the Bridgeport Board of Education. Today's date is Wednesday, September 14th, 2022, and the time is 6:31 p.m. Present are myself, John Weldon, Committee Chair, and committee members Christine Baptiste Perez and Joseph Lombard. Also present is Board Member Albert Benahan. We have District Counsel Richard Berterla, and from the staff, we have our Business Operations Manager, Tony Pires. The only item for tonight is discussion possible referral to the full board to approve agreement for special education audit services with Arizona State University. When last we took this item up, in I believe it was August 31st, there were some items to be addressed. So I'm going to turn that over. Unless anybody from the committee has anything to say, I was just going to turn it over to Attorney Petrella. Does anyone have anything to say about this at this point from the committee level?
What exactly is Attorney Petrella going to address at this
Attorney
point?
Petrella is the attorney who I believe put together the agreement and the addendum that's related to it.
Well, then maybe it'd be more appropriate, Mr. Chair, if we start off with discussion points, because then clarification can come from Attorney Petrella, so we have more guidance towards it.
Go ahead.
Okay. My first question, and this goes back to the original meeting. And when I look at it, this is addendum number 1. It says this addendum to the master service agreement that was effective August 25th, 2022. One of the issues in our last meeting in particular was whether there was a valid, well, I saw a valid contract, and based off of the language in this addendum, there was a valid contract entered by Mr. Testani and ASU without board approval. Is that correct?
So let me take a step back before I answer that, because it's a sort of a complicated answer. We were asked to work on a contract, a draft contract that was received from ASU to make comments on it and revise it. We did. Those revisions were made, the contract was finalized, and the next thing we saw was an executed contract. I learned after the last meeting, and there was an assumption that all approvals were in place. Okay, I think the administration assumed that all approvals were in place because monies had been appropriated and other things, and it was explained to me the dialogue at your committee meeting. So as a result of that dialogue, I created the addendum, which basically made the board approval a condition precedent to the contract actually taking effect. If there is no approval by the board as a result of this addendum, Christine, then by September 30th, the contract will be a nullity. So I'm not going to address whether you had all your approvals or not, because I wasn't involved in that. But I understand there was an issue there where it didn't go to the board, and I have been told that a contract like this should go to the board. So when I heard that, I created the addendum, which solves that problem, which I understand was the big issue. So, yeah. And ASU, they were willing to do it. I'll go a step further. Okay, so I'll go a step further in answer to your question, which is a little bit of a humor an old lawyer. There is a famous case in the municipal area called the Fennell case. And the Fennell case basically holds that even though it seems like there's a formal contract entered into, if those approvals are not in place, that contract is a nullity. And there's no such thing as municipal estoppel. That's the phrase. So so even if this addendum wasn't done, arguably this contract isn't effective under the Fennell case until there's a formal approval. But we don't have to go there because I did the addendum and ASU agreed to it.
Oh, Mr. Petrola. That's actually very helpful. Although I am a little concerned because we do agree to Arizona being the jurisdiction of any issue and not Connecticut. But I think for what it is now, that's completely fine. I'm more interested in another part that I did have written down as a question. And just clear anybody, whether it's you, Mr. Perez, that can clarify, has any work started and has any work been appropriated for the start of this project?
If I can, before Mr. Perez jumps into that, as a result of the addendum, no work has started. I can tell you that,
Right.
because when the issue was brought to my attention, I immediately put the brakes on it. We did the addendum. The addendum was executed. They haven't started work. I can't address the other stuff, so I'll defer to Mr. Perez on that.
I'm not aware of any preparation to any work, but I can also ensure that no work has been started to my knowledge.
I'm going to stick on, and Mr. Lombard or Mr. Weldon, if you have any questions, you can feel free to interject, because I did take the time to read the full contract. And so I do want to stick on the topic of work being performed. Now, in Exhibit A for the proposal, it states that this is a 5-month project that was supposed to start July 1st, 2022 and end on or before December 30th, 2022. Now, we're looking at if this was to go forward with the board, are we really going to get the benefit of our contract? We were looking to enter into a 5-month audit, essentially. And now we're looking at 2.5 months, which financially we're going to still pay that money, a 5-month project to get done in 2.5 months. I didn't see any clause that would say they would expedite or we would pretty much get the full bargain, because from July 1st till September, and I'm looking for any of the board members that want to reference, its phases of work suggested schedule. The initiation, data document collections, and analysis hasn't even started yet. So, and do we have any communications from ASU that guarantees we're going to get 5 months worth of work completed before December 30th?
We don't have anything in particular with those dates, but we do have confirmation from them that it's going to be a 5-month process from the time that they start their work. So if those dates need to be revised, I'm sure that they're in agreement with that. But we don't have anything in writing, as you mentioned.
I think if we can get something in writing that's going to guarantee we're going to get the benefit of our contract and get the benefit of 5 months of work being performed and modify the schedule, then that works for me, because my concern is entering into a project that they're not even going to be able to complete on time, or we're going to run into additional costs because it's being rushed, or errors may happen because the process is going to be rushed.
Yeah, I don't think their intention is to rush the project. I think their intention is to fully complete it as in a 5-month period worth of work. It's just a matter of when they're going to start, and they were waiting for these approvals to start it. I think that date generated from when the RFP was issued, and when they responded, they pretty much gave us a time frame, but that time frame never really materialized. So I'm sure that they can modify those dates.
Okay.
Is that schedule generated from their proposal, or is that in the actual contract?
I'm sorry,
Because what I typically would see is this contract, the duration would be X months from notice to proceed. So if it's 5 months, it's 5 months from the date you get the award. I don't typically see fixed June, July,
page-
or August, or whatever. It's 5 months from the date of award. So if that
On
could be
page-
clarified.
Yeah, on page 3, section 2, terms of engagement, this agreement shall commence on July 1st, 2022, or on the date set forth in a notice to proceed, and shall continue in full force and full and effect until services are completed in accordance to this agreement, December 30th, 2022, or until the earlier termination of this agreement, whichever occurs first. So because of whichever occurs first, it seems like December 30th. So if we're going to move forward with this, should just probably be another item just added to make sure it's completed within the 5 months. So when it goes forward, or not go forward, so a date set forth in a notice to proceed until 5 months afterwards. Again, I just want to make sure we get the benefit of our bargain.
Okay. I
The
think we
next-
can. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Sam,
No,
go ahead, Christine. Go.
no, I don't.
Mr. Pires, you had
I have a
something to
bunch
say?
of questions, so it's
Yeah,
fine. I wrote them out, so.
Yeah, I think we can accommodate that. I think we could contact ASU tomorrow and they will be willing to amend that date from the approval of the contract.
Mr. Lombard,
No, I was just going to point out that on the chart, they're showing a full 6 months from July 1st till the end of December. So if it is 6, it should be 6 or whatever it is.
Yeah,
You
whatever
give-
the number is.
give whatever it is, it should be the full amount.
that's even more concern. I want my full 6 months. You're right.
Yeah, I
Um,
was actually thinking the same thing before you brought it up. I was concerned about the start date, but as long as that's something that could be changed to whenever it's initiated, that'd be fine.
The next thing I wanted to discuss and bring up is when reviewing this proposal the first time and for tonight, I realized we did not receive in our board packet the initial RFP, and it's referred to in the contract itself, and so it's adopted. And so I don't feel like I could do a complete evaluation of the contract or read of the contract if I don't have the RFP. And it's a little bit of just times of the essence. I read the full packet, what's provided, and then I notice the RFP isn't there. And so for me, I want to know what we requested and be able to do a comparison as to what they're offering us. And Exhibit B is not attached in any of the documents.
You don't have Exhibit B, Christine?
Nope.
Wasn't that part of the original from last meeting's?
Not in the Exhibit B is not even in the last meeting packet. And so because it's actually incorporated into the master service agreement, it should be reviewed before even being considered to go forward to the full board.
Well, the RFP was already approved. So I think it's incorporated by reference since we already approved it.
And no, but we mention it as Exhibit B. We provide Exhibit A for us to read, and it says read Exhibit B. We don't get Exhibit B, but
Well,
it's
you got-
incorporated into the contract. I
you
want to
got-
read the full contract, John, or
I-
sorry,
but
Mr.
you-
Chair.
It's okay. But we read that full exhibit 4 months ago.
Yeah,
We read the
and I
RFP.
need to refresh my memory when I read
It's
it the night
okay, but,
before.
I'm just saying, it was transmitted to you previously, and if you really wanted to see it, you could look at the last package.
I looked
but we
at the
can
last
incorporate
package
it
from
for the
last
future.
week,
We can
the last
incorporate it for the
contracts
future.
committee meeting.
We all had it 4 months ago.
Well,
We can incorporate it physically and expand the size of the package.
I mean, that hasn't stopped the board in the past. We've had packages with like 400 pages. I don't see why we're trying to
say
say.
it's not like it was never seen. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but now as I'm reviewing the full package, their proposal next to the RFP, next to the master service agreement, I don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. Or I'm given 24-hour notice to read all the puzzle pieces at once. And so I did go back and check to see if it was provided at the last board meeting for contracts, and it wasn't there either.
Mhm.
And so I just want to see all the pieces of the puzzle put together and presented before me before moving it forward.
Yeah, the RFP was provided at the approval of the RFP and at the approval of the selection of the vendor. It was not provided last month, like the last meeting, and it wasn't provided this time.
My dog's not happy about that. Sorry about that.
Well, okay, so would you like me to email you the RFP now? It's,
Well, my point is I feel like it needs to be sent to the entire committee because we're supposed to review the entire package. You can send it over now, but I still want time to read and review it.
okay.
Just double checking my notes for additional comments and requests. Page 11 of the master service agreement. It says we have to request their insurance information. Has anyone, whether it's internally from the city, Mr. Pires, requested their insurance information before moving forward?
They are, if I may jump on that, in our prior draft, their first draft came with no insurance information. We then incorporated all sorts of insurance information into it. What came back was, unlike most of the vendors you deal with, this particular vendor is backed by the state of Arizona and is self-insured wholly and completely. So as a result of that, then it does not have insurance. It's actually like the city of Bridgeport. In that sense, we have a public institution without insurance. So there, it is then covered by the indemnity agreement, if you will, and we have a state with full faith and credit behind it.
That's good to know. Anybody else from the board? I can go. I still have more questions.
I think you should continue.
Okay. This one I had marked, and this is the last immediate marking I have. Is the communications section, page 12 of the master service agreement, section 19. All communications shall be made orally or in writing to the superintendent or his or her respective designee. The question for me as a board member is we're currently going to have our superintendent resign from his post and position. Are we going to, in the interim, have a respective designee? Do we have or assign someone to be Superintendent Testani's respective designee? My concern is like if there's any oral communications, I want to know who's going to do it if it's not going to be Superintendent Testani. And if we as a board want to figure that out, we're in the process of course, you all know, of searching for a new superintendent in interim. So I guess my concern is because it does incorporate oral communications, do we have a designee? And if not, maybe that's something where we may want to change the language so we know who's going to make the communications or will substitute.
I mean, we are obligated to have someone in the capacity of superintendent, whether it's in a permanent, interim, or acting capacity. And if Mr. Testani got hit by a bus tomorrow, somebody would take his role, whoever that would be. And so I don't know that we need to get that specific. That role never goes away. So it's whoever's sitting in that office, whether it's Testani or Charlie Watanabe, that person takes that role. And I think that's why it references it by title as opposed to individual.
That's correct. The school system must have a superintendent.
That actually leads me to the last one that I overlooked on the first page to the addendum. Now, Attorney Barletta, you could tell me whether this is it could be a harmless error, just a mistake. Superintendent Testani signed it as September 22nd, 2022. And so, yeah, look at it.
That's actually a typo.
Okay.
Rita corrected it with 9-2. That was a typo. Yeah, I caught that too. I saw that, Christine. Yeah.
I was like, is he signing it?
You wondered how he did that. That's pretty good time travel.
Just send over the lottery numbers. But okay, I just wanted to point out that that's an error in it.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, that resolves the issues that I flagged of concern for the special education audit. I'm not sure if any other board member has questions or comments in addition to it. I think it's important that we, as Mr. Lombard pointed out, lawyers are probably not the best at math. It's 6 months. To make sure that we're going to get the 6 months of our agreement. So there needs to be possibly another addendum. So that way it's just clear that we're going to get our full 6 months. And also, depending on what's moved by this committee, is that the full packet is presented to the committee. So a complete review should be done. Mr. Pires did mention that it could be done by tomorrow. Mr. Barletta, would you confirm like an addendum with the 6 months could be created and executed potentially in 24 hours?
First of all, I just realized it's Paterla, but that's okay.
Paterla. Oh,
that's all right.
We've been going a whole 30 minutes and
Yeah, no,
I apologize.
I thought, you get a little stuff with teams sometimes, so I wasn't quite sure. But that I just realized what you were calling me. So if you're asking me, can we make a change so that effectively you would have an addendum that the 6 months, 5 months or 6 months, we're going to have to square that up a little from the time of the notice to proceed. Yes. Which I see Chairman Weldon shaking his head. Yes, that can be done. I'm sure that can be done very easily. And we will reach out to them first thing in the morning and probably get a signature relatively quickly. I'm sure we can do that. Yes.
And Mr. Pires, you can modify this package so that it includes the full RFP in the actual package, not just by reference.
Correct. We'll do that first thing in the morning.
But then would the committee need to meet again after having the packet completed? Is that what you're asking for, Christine?
Well, yeah, we could just table it and then have another special meeting or leave it. Our next If,
I will tell
if
you,
that's the
and
case, we could
I
just
will
move
tell you
it.
this, there
Sorry,
is
John.
another
I mean,
contractual, there is another contractual matter that we need to address likely next week. But it hinges on the city attorney who's on vacation this week. I believe he's coming back next week. So we can do two birds with one stone and do this and that. The other item is an agreement related to the thermal loop heating system for the new Bassett High School. So that's got to be addressed anyway. Based on when the city attorney is available, maybe we can schedule something for Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday and just do them both, and then that'll be that. And that gives a few days for people to review this new material. And Mr. Paterla, Attorney Paterla, is not under the gun to get an addendum executed by noon and all of that stuff. So I had placed this item on tomorrow's special meeting, just from an FOI standpoint. Didn't know how this was going to go tonight. And if we pushed it to the full board, if it wasn't on the agenda, we weren't going to be able to talk about it because you can't add stuff to a special meeting. So tomorrow night, when this item comes up, we'll just explain that this remains in committee and we'll just pass over the item and move on to the next business item. So does that sound like a plan for now?
I mean,
Kick it over to next week?
That sounds fine. I mean, I would think maybe there should just be a formal motion to table this until the next contracts committee meeting for consideration. That way there's a motion formally on, we know when we're going to address it.
Can do that.
And that way it's just a date set.
I'll move what you just said.
You second what you just said?
Second,
moved
yes.
it.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Richard, for your time. I know it's late. I appreciate you being here. Get these items clarified, and we'll meet again sometime early to mid next week. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, meeting is adjourned, 6:59 p.m.
Good night,
We'll
Thank you.
everyone.
schedule for next week.
Good seeing you all. Take
All
care.
right.
Have a good night,
Thanks, sir.
everyone. God bless you all.
Bye-bye.